Let me state this important facet of why we can't dig out of the mud, why we can't get out of this at this point right now. Because people are still in their Democrat and Republican camps. And you look at the people, who control the parties, and you look at their actions. Open borders, gun control, more regulation, more taxation, arming our enemies, building up China and North Korea. You look at the real actions of the Republicans and the Democrats, they are almost identical. Congressman Ron Paul did an absolutely amazing thing. He gave a speech on July 10th entitled Neocon, where he said the Bush administration is run by Trotskyites, this is Ron Paul, organized criminals, corporate raiders, and people that promote a system of, quote, entering into evil and a giant controlling welfare state. Think about how far we've already slid. The American Bar Association comes out and says, lawyers are going to spy on you. By law, they're going to have to tell the judge and the prosecutor everything about you, but they don't have to tell you. And by the way, we're not going to let people represent themselves because they keep winning all their cases and having a better track record. And so it's very serious. I mean, and I predicted years ago, again, once you know these people, it's not hard to know their plan. That they would have Hollywood people and rich people take microchips. And so you see them all over the news, how wonderful microchips are and how we all need microchips. And, oh, this Hollywood person's getting one for their child or daughter. And, oh, look at the family. The Chipsons, they're so cool. Everybody's got to have it. The same newscast in the same order on every channel saying the same thing, word for word, off an admitted script. You're watching daytime TV dramas, or cop shows. Man, that kid wouldn't have gotten kidnapped if he just had the Applied Digital Solutions chip. It's like the satellite tracking. Ooh, I have OnStar. It's a status symbol. You need to have them remove that if you buy a Chevy vehicle because now it's standard on all the new ones. And that's the same federal package. Ford's announcing to make GPS standard C. Oh, it's standard, and by the way, there's a tax, and by the way, we set this up 5-6 years ago. See the premeditated nature of it? See how they build the infrastructure and then put us into it? I remember 4 years ago being on the radio and going, here's the Army War College document. Here is the public plan. They're talking about hive minds, connecting us all in by law with microchips in our brains by 2025. The Army War College brags how they'll use the media and hype and peer pressure to get the people to accept what they would have never accepted without the brainwashing, the conditioning. And people go, man, you flipped out. I can't believe that. And I put a link on my website to the Army's website, .mil. And they go, I can't believe they're saying that. The Army's job is going to be implanting every citizen with their own chip. But they actually said that. And then everybody saw on the news the last 2 years after the terror attack, they suddenly played up child kidnappings that were actually way down, but they played them way up and said, what's the answer? And suddenly on every network at the same time, microchips, implantable microchips to track and trace you. I mean, this stuff sounds crazy, but you have all seen it on the news. You've all seen the unified propaganda, the systematic crafting, the same phrases, whole paragraphs on different networks, spoken exactly the same. And see, that goes into the nature of the staged events. They're calling it a Patriot Act debate nationwide. Ashcroft's hearing your concerns. They drive the guy in secretly to the hotel where he gives a speech. No one is allowed in. They frisk the media. Only allow certain members of the media to ask questions. This has all been admitted. I mean, it's like Bush up there for how great Made in America is, how much good American-made things we have, how good the economy is up in St. Louis earlier this year. With all the Made in America, USA sprayed on the boxes, and they zoomed in, it's all made in China. None of it was made here, but it was just an illusion. Secret Service told them in Indianapolis, Indiana, a couple months ago, all right, everybody, the president's about to be here. Take your ties off or you can't be in here. Thousands of people. And some people said, well, I'm not taking my tie off. Secret Service threw them out. That's your free country. And even before they were coming out with all the microchips, telling us how good all the implanted microchips would be, they said, watch kooks that talk about implantable chips. And all these nuts that talk about urban warfare training and black helicopters. And all of a sudden, years before they launched all the helicopters on us and the raids and the training to get us ready to get rid of posse comitatus, the 1878 law that bans the military from engaging in law enforcement activities, they would say, crazy people talk about black helicopters. It's a code word for absolute evil. And then when the helicopters and the urban warfare training hit Texas and the rest of the country, and they were blowing up buildings in front of people and terrorizing the population, Czechoslovakian troops running around, they went, of course, we're just doing some training to get our military ready. And yeah, black helicopters exist. But still, people that warn the public about black helicopters, kind of this icon or symbol for urban warfare, training, conditioning, they go, but you're still weird to talk about them. You're still weird to talk about implantable microchips. You're that weird guy who talks about all that weird stuff. I'm like, why isn't it weird when it's on the news? Right. See? So that's built-in defense mechanisms where people don't want to face a threat. So they want to just deny what you're saying. They want to deny what you've told them. They don't want to believe it. Everything's been made so comfortable for us here, while they euthanize the human spirit. I'm writing analysis of the Victory Act. It says in here, the Victory Act says that possession of any controlled substance or prohibited substance. That means a little old lady puts her medication in the wrong plastic container when she goes to church. And who doesn't do that? Who takes medication? You've all heard of little old ladies getting taken to jail. Cop pulls over. Let me search. Let's share officer tonight. What are these pills? These aren't the designated bottle. Under that, it says one marijuana cigarette, anything, 20 to life. It says it. It says it in the Victory Act, word for word. And it says it's an act of terrorism. And before they announced this evil law, before Ashcroft went on his ridiculous Carnival Barker roadshow, arming enemies, arming terrorists. There are as many examples of this as there are fish in a good-sized lake. I mean, it's amazing. Here's one, Time Magazine, and they just admit this now. Nukes to North Korea from Nashville. And it says, yeah, these conservative groups that own these big weapons companies, they've been selling all the nuke stuff to Kim Jong-il in North Korea. Now we're going to have World War III to fix it. Well, that's all right. But we had to go in there and get Saddam. Man, he had some aluminum tubing. You know, my gosh, that guy, he was in bombed out bunkers. He was a real threat. Of course, he also had about $4 trillion in oil, and a bunch of weapons sales, and got the troops in that region, invade Syria, Iran, everybody else. So there's that. And there's idealistic Philippine rebellion leaders claim moral victory. This was all over the BBC and the French news. And 300 commandos led by a colonel took over a building, released documents, and said the government with the U.S. has been doing all the bombings, shooting all the people. It's our own government shooting us. There are no terrorists here. The Muslims are doing nothing. These so-called terror groups are the Philippine government, quote, that wants to continue martial law. It's been in effect there for decades. And it's a recipe for disaster to disarm a population. You disarm a population. Let's say we had a little angel running the government right now. When you do get a dictator, they're going to be able to go all the way. And that's what the separation of powers are about. That's what the Bill of Rights is about. It's all about restraining power. Realize that history does repeat itself. And emperors and kings and despots and strong men and king rats have always used crises, the threat of the unknown, of the enemy, of the criminal, the low-level criminal, to convince the mass to relinquish control of their lives and to serve and become willing slaves of the system. This system is un-American, it's anti-human, it's anti-God, it's degenerate to its very, very core. And you are part of history in your fight against it. You are special. You do matter. You are leaders. So get in the bleeding heart liberal idiots' faces, the mindless neocons. Get in these people's faces and wake them up that we are under a massive, sustained terrorist attack by the New World Order military-industrial complex, and that they're attempting to expand that control. Again, thank you so much for coming, and God bless you all.